Hi Exiles, welcome back to Old Man Gaming. What you're watching here is a juiced T17 map, running under sustained pressure. One of the things I love most about the Flame Golem build is the smooth, satisfying playstyle. The Golems handle the damage, recovery runs in the background, and my job is mostly to keep moving forward. You'll notice my life moving, it goes up and down, and that's expected. What matters is that it stabilizes instead of collapsing. Earlier on, this build was running Awakened Greater Multiple Projectiles. Visually, it looked great. The screen was filled with flame balls, and mapping felt very explosive. The problem was single target damage, especially in high-level content. Powerful rares and T17 bosses are where I noticed it the most. If I didn't move perfectly, I would die. And the longer the fight went on, the more opportunities there were for something to go wrong. That wasn't very forgiving. More time to fight means more chances for overlapping damage, bad timing, or one mistake ending the run. So I swapped Awakened Greater Multiple Projectiles out for Awakened Elemental Focus. The screen isn't quite as busy anymore. There aren't flame balls flying everywhere, but it was a significant increase in damage output, and mapping speed didn't really slow down. Packs still disappear instantly. The difference shows up on rares and bosses. You can really feel it. They die faster, phases are shorter, and there's less time spent standing in danger waiting for damage to land. Once that change was in place, I turned my focus to survivability and found a way to tie my recovery directly to my golem damage. I'll talk about this a little later in the video, but the build stopped having those sudden moments where a single mistake could end the map. Instead of trying to avoid every hit, the build absorbs it, smooths it out, and keeps moving. After all, this is what Old Man Gaming is all about. Multiple layers of defense, working together to give a forgiving playstyle without sacrificing too much damage. These last changes helped me finally reach level 100 on this tune. Let's jump ahead a bit to the boss fight. You will notice I said this character is nearly immortal and not completely immortal. On solo boss fights, you will not have progenesis constantly triggering, so you do need to be a little more careful. But with the changes I've put in place, it's no longer an instant death scenario. Alright, let's pause here for a second. This image illustrates one of the most important changes in the build. On the left, this is the setup with Awakened Greater Multiple Projectiles. You can see the numbers. Visually, this version looks fantastic. The screen is filled with flame balls, coverage is everywhere, and for general mapping, it feels very active. But when you look at the actual damage numbers, especially hit DPS, you can see where the problem starts. Now, look at the right side. This is with Awakened Elemental Focus. The screen is cleaner, fewer projectiles, but the average hit damage is significantly higher, and hit DPS jumps by a very noticeable amount. That's the key difference right here. With Awakened GMP, damage is spread out. It looks busy, but individual hits are weaker. With Awakened Elemental focus, each hit matters more. Rares die faster, bosses lose phases quicker, and fights don't drag on. And that matters more than people realize, because the longer a fight lasts, the more chances there are for overlapping damage, bad timing, or one mistake ending the run. So, while mapping speed doesn't really slow down, survivability actually improves, because dangerous enemies are alive for less time. This image isn't about which setup looks cooler, it's about which one shortens fights. And in T17 content, shorter fights mean fewer deaths. That's why this swap was such a big turning point for the build. So let's talk about the ascendancies. You can run this build as either Necromancer or Elementalist. Both work, but I chose Elementalist. The main reason is Liege of the Primordial. My Summon Golems are immune to elemental damage. They grant stronger buffs, and if one dies, it automatically resummons after 4 seconds. That part is huge, because I don't have the mana to constantly recast Golems, and I don't even have them on my action bar. Liege of the Primordial also increases the maximum number of Golems, and with my helmet doubling that number, I end up getting 4 additional Golems out of it. Now, if you go Necromancer, you absolutely want Liege of the Primordial on Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh. It's just too strong not to take. For me, going Elementalist lets me do that, and still pick up Bone Barrier on Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh. That gives me extra physical damage mitigation, and more importantly, 1% of my minions' damage leech back to me as life, which is a massive part of why this build feels so stable. Elementalist also gives me Shaper of Flames, which guarantees Ignite. Ignited enemies have 40% of the physical damage they deal converted to fire, which works exactly like Cloak of Flames. Most people know how strong that effect is for damage mitigation, and getting it here is a big deal. On top of that, I'm running Shaper of Storms, so enemies near me are shocked. That means they take more damage, and they're dealing less effective damage back to me at the same time. And then there's Mastermind of Discord. Exposure applies an extra 25% to resistances, which is a straight damage increase. The mana regeneration doesn't really matter for me, but the exposure bonus absolutely does. All of that together is why I went Elementalist. It gives me damage, mitigation, and recovery, all working at the same time. Since I'm applying exposure, ignite, and shock, I made a gem swap that really helps Wave of Conviction of Charthus. This version sends out a circle that returns, hitting twice. It ensures enemies around me are debuffed. No perfect positioning needed. Plus, with Awakened Hextouch, it also applies elemental weakness and flammability, further lowering resistances and boosting my Golem's damage. I'll wrap up with a bonus clip, Waves 14 and 15 of Simulacrum, just to show how this build handles even the toughest challenges. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope some of my tips make a difference in your gameplay. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, happy gaming! Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.